The Westbridge Country Club had always been the center of my family's social life. For as long as I could remember, everything important revolved around that place. It was more than just a club. It was status, reputation, and belonging, all wrapped into one carefully controlled environment. The property stretched across acres of perfectly maintained land. There was a championship golf course that looked more like a painting than real grass. The swimming pool was Olympic size, surrounded by lounge chairs arranged with mathematical precision. The tennis courts hosted regional competitions, and the dining hall was where executives negotiated deals worth millions over expensive wine and flawless meals. I had grown up in that world. I attended celebrations there as a child, then as a teenager, then as an adult who still never felt fully accepted. Debut parties, anniversaries, charity dinners, graduation celebrations, I had been present for all of it. But even when I was physically there, I never truly felt like I belonged. I was always the extra one, the younger daughter who didn't quite match the image my parents wanted the world to see. My sister Vanessa, on the other hand, was everything they had hoped for. She was polished in every way that mattered to them. She had graduated from an Ivy League university, married a successful corporate lawyer, and spent her time coordinating volunteer programs for well-known charities. She moved through social spaces with effortless confidence. She understood which wine matched which course. She knew how to speak in ways that impressed people. She wore designer clothing that looked like it had been made specifically for her. My parents never had to explain why they were proud of her. It was obvious. I was different. I left college after 2 years. I didn't finish the path they had carefully imagined for me. After that, my life looked ordinary. I worked practical jobs. I made my own way quietly. Coffee shops, retail management, administrative roles. Nothing impressive, nothing glamorous, nothing that earned admiration in social circles like theirs. And my appearance reflected that difference. At family events, Vanessa wore luxury brands. I wore clothes that were comfortable and affordable. To me, they were simply clothes. To my parents, they were evidence of failure. That Sunday, I made what they considered a mistake. I arrived at the club for brunch wearing dark jeans, a simple blazer, and comfortable flats. Nothing wrinkled, nothing messy, nothing inappropriate by normal standards. But normal standards didn't apply there. My parents were already seated on the terrace overlooking the golf course when I walked toward their table. My father noticed me first. His expression changed immediately, like something had spoiled in front of him. He said absolutely not loud enough that people nearby turned to look. He told me I would not sit with them dressed like that. My mother set down her drink and stared at me with visible disapproval. She asked what I was wearing, as if the answer might somehow justify my presence. I reminded her that she had invited me. She replied that she had assumed I would dress properly. She reminded me that this was a private club, not an ordinary public place. Vanessa arrived moments later, perfectly styled as always. She stopped walking when she saw me. She looked shocked, then embarrassed, then irritated. She told me there was a dress code. She told me I was making a scene. My father stood up and began speaking loud enough for surrounding tables to hear. He said my appearance embarrassed the family. He asked how I could show up dressed so cheaply. He spoke as if I had deliberately tried to humiliate him. He ordered me to leave. When I didn't move, he said he would have management remove me. I could have left quietly. It would have been easier. It would have avoided attention. But instead, I followed him inside. The main building of the club was filled with polished marble floors and large portraits of important members from decades past. Everything about it felt formal and controlled. My father approached the front desk and demanded to speak with management. He insisted that I be escorted off the property immediately. My mother and sister joined us, watching silently. They expected the situation to end with security leading me out. The general manager arrived, then the director of operations, then my assistant, and then everything changed. The manager calmly introduced me as the owner of the Westbridge Country Club. Silence filled the entire lobby. My father stared at me as if he didn't understand the language being spoken. But it was true. 8 months earlier, I had purchased the property through my hospitality company. The club had been struggling financially. I bought it, renovated it, modernized its operations. Every improvement they had admired recently, new facilities, updated spaces, expanded services, had been funded by me. My parents couldn't process what they were hearing. They thought I still worked ordinary jobs. They thought I was still trying to figure their life out. They never asked what I was actually doing. They had already decided who I was, and they had been wrong.
Once the shock settled in, the situation shifted completely. My parents weren't just embarrassed anymore. They were shaken. For years, they had defined status and belonging. Now they were standing in a building I owned, facing consequences they never imagined. I asked management to pull up their membership records. My father had been a member for decades. My mother was listed alongside him. Vanessa had her own associate membership. Their access, their privileges, their social standing, all documented in contracts governed by the club's policies. Membership could be terminated for conduct harmful to the club. That included harassment or behavior damaging to the club's reputation. My father had just attempted to have the owner removed from the property. That qualified. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I simply enforced policy. Their memberships were suspended. My father's board position was placed under review. Security escorted them out of the building. They left through the same entrance they had walked through proudly for years. At first, I felt calm, but later the reality of what had happened settled in. Messages flooding my phone. Family members called. Friends asked questions. Legal concerns emerged. My advisors confirmed that while I had authority, I had acted quickly. Procedures existed. Public perception mattered. I had to decide what came next. After speaking with legal advisors, I made a decision that balanced authority with restraint. I offered to restore their memberships under specific conditions. They would submit formal written apologies. They would participate in reviewing the club's dress code policies to ensure fairness, and they would acknowledge my authority as owner moving forward. For the first time in years, my father listened quietly. He admitted that he had misjudged me. He admitted he never truly tried to understand my life or my work. He admitted success could take forms he never expected. A week later, I returned to the club for brunch, wearing the same outfit as before: jeans, blazer, flats. My family stood when I approached the table. They invited me to sit. They asked questions about my business. They spoke to me with respect rather than judgment. Nothing was magically perfect, but something important had changed. And when other members saw me sitting there comfortably dressed, laughing with my family, no one questioned my presence. Because now everyone knew the truth. The woman they once dismissed owned the entire place. And more importantly, she finally owned her place in her family.